Welcome back, everyone. This is Rabbi Nathan Zaboulani learning with you the commentary of Rabbi Yishak Arama, known as the Akedat Yishak on Parashat Shavua Lekh. We're going to be focusing on the laughter of Avraham at the end of this week's parasha when he hears that he's going to have a child with Sara, and Sarah's laughter at the beginning of next week's parasha when she hears the same news. And if you look at the end of this week's parasha, Avraham is told that he'll be blessed. Sarah is going to be changed to Sara. And when Avraham hears the great news that he's going to have, he falls on his face and he laughs. And he says in his heart, am I going to have a child at the age of 100? And is Sarah going to have a child at the age of 90? This is truly an incredible miracle. Next week's parasha, seemingly the same type of laughter that Sara has. Sarah laughs upon hearing the news from the angels, and she says, me who's unable to have children, her childbearing years have passed, and Avraham, of course, is also very old. She laughs at what she hears. Now, Avraham, when he laughs, there's no comment on his laughter, there's no rebuke, there's no punishment. But when Sarah laughs, she is rebuked. Avraham is told that she is rebuked because Lama zetzachaka Sarah, Avraham is told. And is this not in the capabilities of Hashem to be able to do such a thing? Why is it that Sarah is laughing? But there's no questioning when Avraham is laughing. So what's the difference? Why is Avraham seemingly scot-free, but Sarah is rebuked for what she had done? And here you have the very famous explanation, which is really a translation, but an explanation through the translation of Targum Onkelos, in which, regarding Avraham, he translates the word Vayitzchak as Vahdi, which means that he rejoiced and was very happy. And regarding Sarah, the same word, Vatitzchak, he translates as Vahayechat, which means kind of like she mocked. And that is how the Targum explains this story, that Avraham is not rebuked because his laughter was one of joy, one of excitement, that he's so happy that he's going to have a child, immediately believing what's taking place. But Sarah was not so believing of what was happening, and she mocked the news in which she heard. And this is also the approach of Rashi, as you see, Lashon Simcha V'chadi regarding Avraham, Sarah Lashon Machoch. And over here you see that Avraham believed and was happy. Sarah lo hemina v'ligliga v'zeu shikpid HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this is why Borei Olam is now rebuking Sarah and is makpid on her words, but not makpid on Avraham. That's the approach of Rashi, of Targum Onkelos. Rabbi Tzchak Arama's comment is as follows: Divrei hamavdilim, those who are separating ben tzchok Avraham and tzchok Sarah, einam nichnasim be'oznai, they're not fitting in my ears, meaning Rabbi Yishak Arama doesn't like this pirush. It happens that you have the same word in Tanakh, which is explained in a different way based on the context. But over here, Rabbi Yishak Arama is saying the context is the same. They're hearing the same news, and the same word is being used for the same news that they're hearing. The only difference is the reaction that is happening from their laughter by God. But other than that, the laughter is the same, the news is the same, so it must be that the word is the same. This isn't the Peshat explanation that their laughters were different. Just like Sarah was a little bit tiny, lacking in the emunah of belief of this incredible thing, news, so says Rabbi Tzchak Arama, Avraham was lacking it as well. Laughter was the same type of laughter of a somewhat shock at what they are hearing. Now, if Sarah was rebuked, then why wasn't Avraham rebuked? He says, no. He was to be rebuked in his face. That same day in which Avraham is told that he's going to have a child, he's going to be rebuked as well. Not only that, it's a very happy day for another reason as well, because that is the day in which he's given the mitzvah of Brit Milah. And we know that the mitzvah of Brit Milah is a beloved mitzvah. It's a mitzvah that Avraham did with diligence, and it's a mitzvah that all of his descendants do with a great amount of love and commitment, as we have the Gemara Masechet Shabbat, mitzvah shekiblu ha'isa b'simcha, dechtiv sas anochi al minatecha. This is a pasuk that we say at the Brit Milah, that the Jewish people love the mitzvah of Brit Milah. They do it with care and with joy. And this is a day of joy from Avraham. Hashem is going to rebuke Avraham, so he saves the rebuke for later. Now, Rabbi Tzchak Arama brings support for what he's saying. Is there a precedent in which someone does something potentially a little bit wrong, and their rebuke or their punishment is delayed because of the happiness of the day? Yes. The same thing has happened on the day of the giving of the Torah Atzmo. A very cryptic story in which the giving of the Torah, the Atzilim of Bnei Israel, the leaders of the Jewish people, were doing something that they shouldn't have been doing. They were eating and drinking, seemingly engaged in an emphasis on physicality, or Gashmut of Hashem at the time. You have to refer to that story to really figure out what's going on. And over there, they should have been punished, but it was the day of Matan Torah. And Chachamim teach us that they deserve to be punished, but their punishment was delayed to a later date because that was not a day of punishment. It was a day of giving of the Torah. Same thing over here. It's not a day to punish or rebuke Avraham. It's a day in which he's being told he's having a child with Sara. It's a day in which he's given the mitzvah of Brit Milah. And so, God didn't want to upset and scare Avraham with divrei tochachot on the day of his Shomro. So he saves it for the third day of Avraham's Brit Milah, the day in which Sara is told. And God knows that Sara is going to have the similar reaction as Avraham does. So what does Hashem do? He rebukes Avraham, but in an indirect way. He tells Avraham, Lama zeh tzahaka Sara. Why is Sara laughing at this news? Haipalem Hashem davar. Is God incapable to do such a thing? Now, when Avraham hears that Sara laughed and Borei Olam is rebuking Sara for her laughter, immediately, of course, Avraham realizes that he also laughed and that his laughing was inappropriate as well. And such Borei Olam is rebuking Avraham in a way in which Avraham is realizing on his own, in a very dignified fashion, that he did something wrong, and Avraham is able to deal with that in the appropriate way as well. And so we see a unique approach of Rabbi Yishak Arama. Just to bring this point home, an incident that happened to me while I was in college. I was sitting next to a friend having a meal, and this friend of mine was in the dating world very seriously, but he would never get a second date. But he was a handsome guy, and he was head on his shoulders and a great person, but wasn't getting second dates. And it was very odd, and he didn't understand why. And I didn't understand why either until I was watching his mouth while he was eating, and he was chewing kind of like a horse with his mouth open, and you could see the food being digested in his mouth, and it was disgusting. And I said to myself, wow, this must be it. And I asked him, where are you taking these girls on the dates? And he says, I take them to a restaurant, a nice restaurant, I want to be classy. And I said to myself, it must be this. It must be that they're looking at him the whole hour sitting there at the meal, and they're seeing him chew with his mouth open, and it's disgusting. And that's why he's not getting second dates. But I said to myself, how could I break it to him? How could I embarrass him? I'm his friend. I don't want to make him feel bad, but I have to tell him. So I said, all right, I'll save it for opportune time. And surely enough, a few weeks later, we're sitting at lunch, and we have someone sitting next to us at the restaurant, and the person is also chewing with his mouth open in a disgusting way. And I said, this is my opportunity. I say to my friend, hey, you see that guy over there? And he says, yeah, he's chewing his mouth open. It's disgusting. And I said, yeah, it's disgusting. He probably doesn't even realize what he's doing. If he realized, he wouldn't have done it. And then I said, is it possible that I also chew with my mouth open and it's in a disgusting way? And my friend says, no, you don't do that. And I said, would you tell me if I did? And he said, of course I would. And then I said, well, we should be a little bit more conscious of it and make sure that we're not doing that because it's really very unattractive. And he said, yeah, I'm going to be paying attention to this disgusting thing. And him on his own realizes the next week he comes to me and he says, I realized that I kind of chew with my mouth open. And I only realized it after we noticed the other guy doing it and you pointed it out and he stopped. And it's not a coincidence that very shortly afterwards, he did get engaged. And the point here is that it's very difficult to rebuke someone. And it's very easy for a person that is rebuked to lose their self-confidence, to be embarrassed, to be shocked, and really, really upset by that rebuke. But a person, when they're rebuking his fellow, or Borei Olam even rebuking Avraham, wants to do so in the most compassionate way, in a way in which Avraham will really be able to accept the rebuke in a way that is fitting. And so he rebukes Avraham through the actions of Sara. Abraham's laughter, Sarah's laughter, it's all the same thing. But Avraham is told about Sarah's laughter and understands the message indirectly from that. And that is the sensitivity that Borei Olam has towards Avraham, and a lesson for all of us that when you see someone doing something wrong, it is your responsibility, if you have the influence, to be able to help that person become a better human being. But at the same time, we don't want to embarrass them. So if there's a way to give them rebuke in a dignified way to make their life enhanced and also retain their dignity, Matov Umanaim. Thank you very much for joining us in this learning of Rabbi Yitzchak Arama on the parasha. Please come and join us also next week as we learn Parashat Vayera, Chazak u'Baruch, and Shabbat Shalom.